Rabbi Pape, you're muted.
Unmute. Now you can hear me.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Who's that? Bina?
Tina.
Bina?
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning, Bina. Glad to have you aboard. So he arrived, so he started to make a presentation to this wealthy philanthropist. And he cut him off after 2 or 3 minutes. He said, Rabbi, you just moved to town. Did you unpack your boxes yet? He said, no. He says, well, that's good. Don't bother. You don't belong here. What you envisage for the future, Jewish future of this community is not for this community. It's for a different community. Go back to Brooklyn. So he was crushed. So what did he do? He went to the office of the motor vehicles, turned in his New York driver's license and exchanged it for South Carolina driver's license. As if to say, I'm staying.
And now his son is my rabbi on his.
Yeah.
So.
And daughter-in-law.
Yep.
Yeah, it was very good. The theme of the convention, the speakers, was that challenges are only there to bring out the best in you. And you shouldn't be downcast because of insurmountable challenges. There's no such thing as an insurmountable challenge. A very cute, very, very cute story about a young Israeli boy who got married, and he wanted to go on shlichus, and he asked his wife, obviously wouldn't have married her otherwise, but he asked his wife, was she willing to go on shlichus with him? She said, yes, I'll go with you anywhere on shlichus, but not Russia. And he didn't say why. Maybe her family was from Russia, maybe she doesn't like the cold, but she said, not Russia. Sure enough, he gets a phone call from Beryl Lazar, who's the head rabbi of Chabad in Russia. He said, chief rabbi of Russia, asking him if he would like to go to Novosibirsk, which is one of the largest cities in Russia. It's in Siberia. How did Jews get there? Well, I'm not sure exactly. I think the history might be that a lot of them were exiled, were sent into exile, survived their prison sentence, for political crimes, whatever. And then they stayed. Big community. Anyway, so he called him, he said, how would you like to go there? He says, well, for my part, it's fine, but my wife said she doesn't want to go to Russia for anything. He said, yeah, but why don't you just go take a look and see, maybe you'll like it. So they arrived and they found Jewish life there was a shambles, a mess. Then they arrived just right after Purim. They came to the shul. There was a pogrom, like from the old days. Sounds from the way he described it that Baruch Hashem, nobody got beaten up and killed, but they devastated the shul. And the Sefer Torah was thrown out. So on the ground, it was a mess. So he called up Beryl Lazar to say, listen, look at what happened. So Rabbi Lazar said, call the press, call the mayor. So they did. And then the press showed up. He didn't even speak Russian. And they said to him, are you the new rabbi? Well, there was no rabbi in the city at all, a very big city. There was no rabbi in the city at all. And his first week there, young, beautiful looking, innocent, sweet boy and his wife arrive, and there's a pogrom and they destroy the shul. It was in all the newspapers. It attracted international attention. It was in newspapers all over the world. and what was it supposed to say? He said, "Are you the rabbi?" He said, what was he supposed to say? He was just there to take a look. So he had to say, well, yes. And so then he was getting phone calls and congratulations and encouragement and the police protection and the government protection. So that's, his wife didn't want to go. Famous last words, you have to be very careful what you say, just might come back to haunt you. But anyway, it didn't haunt them. They ended up with really a multi-million-dollar Chabad center. It's beautiful. And the happy ending was that the baby that she brought in her arms, his wife had a newborn baby. They just made the chasana right there. Hundreds and hundreds of people. Talia, good morning. Anyway, it's very, very inspiring. And since we're in 120, we're saying the 120th chapter of Tehillim for the Rebbe. So Rabbi Kotlarski, who should be well, he's been undergoing some very serious medical procedures, and he's struggling. And he said, he made a big speech, and he said, when he was lying in the hospital after major surgery, he said to himself, the only way I'm going to get out of here is if I connect myself much, much more to the Rebbe's inyonim. And so therefore he took upon himself a whole lot of new ideas and renewed old ideas. Like one old idea was that any family of on shlichus, the shluchim don't have money. They don't have parnasa. Only some shluchim have very wealthy patrons. Most of them have no money. So he's reestablishing a fund for any shliach who makes a wedding, a bar mitzvah, a bas mitzvah, a bris, any simcha, and they give them a grant of money. They did this years ago when I made a bar mitzvah. I made a wedding, and I got a check. I got a check from a similar fund when it started, for $500 to help out. That was one thing. And he says 120 years, we're going to build 120 mikvahs in 120 different cities. That's a very big undertaking. We're going to do it by the Rebbe's birthday in 6 months' time. So that was pretty inspiring for everybody to hear words like that, and a number of other resolutions that he took on personally, which are a challenge and inspiration to everybody else. What are they going to do? What are we going to do? So from that point of view, one person said to me, as part of the kinnis, they speak about accepting Moshiach. What does that mean? What does it mean? How do you accept Moshiach? And then people don't have a clear answer. What does it mean? Because it's an internal thing. And I was thinking after all this, how do you accept Moshiach? And I came up with this thought that when you go to a place like that and you show that you go out of your private life, out of the things that you're used to, out of your habits and out of your routines, even though they're holy routines, but you go out to some place and you establish a place of Torah there, and people are drawn to it and people are turned on, and you're doing this because you're inspired by the Rebbe, and they know that you're the representative of the Rebbe, that the Rebbe wants you there, and you went there because the Rebbe cares about the Jews in that area. That makes them feel that makes them feel connected to the Rebbe. A king, when you have a king, if you know a person is a king, you take upon yourself that he's going to be your king. He's going to rule over you. He's going to govern the country in which you live. He's going to establish the laws and the facilities of the community, and you owe him your allegiance. You pledge allegiance because he's your king. And if necessary, you will do everything that necessary for him. If he drafts you into some kind of a service, you do it because he's the king. The king orders, you follow orders. And that's part of what makes a king. So how we say that Moshiach is a king. He is David Melech Yisrael, is the king of the Jewish people forever and ever. And his scion, that is to say, his descendant, Rambam writes about it, his descendant will be great like he was great and maybe even greater. He will be a sage filled with fear of heaven. He will guide the whole Jewish people and bring them to, through following him, to follow Hashem. And through accepting his rulership as king over them, to accept the rulership of Hashem over us. And how do we do that? By following his rules and his commandments, which are clearly stated in the Shulchan Aruch. And I remember one time many years ago, when I was newly married, we had one little child who's now 45 and another one on the way. And some guests came to town. We ended up hosting them. It was a very extraordinary story, a wonderful story. We just met them in a gas station. And they asked, where's the hotel? And we said, why don't you come and stay with us? And we spoke. They wanted to know about Lubavitch. They were actually on their way to Toronto. We were in Buffalo. They were on their way to Toronto for the Israel Independence Day. They were going to celebrate. They were part of the celebrations. They're Israeli musicians. They stayed with us and they wanted to know about Lubavitch. They wanted to know about the Rebbe. And I told them stories that I knew, wonderful stories. I'm not going to tell you those stories now, maybe some other time, because I remember very well what we spoke about. And in the middle of the whole conversation, it just became clear to them, and this is the point I want to make, it just became clear to them from these stories that the Rebbe was a leader of Jewish people. He cares, sitting in Brooklyn, caring about the people in Israel, guiding them, advising the military, saving lives, inspiring. And in the middle of the conversation, so one of these young boys says, this means that the Rebbe is Moshiach. He just realized it, you see. So I was thinking about this after the Kennes, that when we go out and we do the Rebbe Shlichus, and we bring people into the world of Torah and mitzvahs, they realize and they understand that this is happening because and through the leadership of the Rebbe. The Rebbe is a leader, and they are accepting upon themselves the kingship and the leadership of the Rebbe in our time. And he is the leader of the Jewish people in our time. And that's how you accept Mashiach. Because if you're enabling other people to get to this stage of thinking and feeling, then that means you're there automatically. And I think that's the answer to this young man's question, that by him was an existential question. How do I awaken in my heart that I have accepted the kingship of Mashiach? And that's not the issue of what's in your heart. Just do what you have to do. Do what the Rebbe wants you to do. That's how you accept Mashiach. And that's all. That's for today. Okay. Sarah. Girls, you must go online and listen to some of these speeches from yesterday. They were really, really inspiring. Bina, you're online. Good morning, Bina. What happened to Bina?
I'm right here.
Okay. You asked about Bina. Bina means building, right?
Uh-huh.
Binyan. So Bina is the builder, the developer. Bina, women are given extra Bina because they have to develop the home and raise the children and make sure that there's continuity. Abraham, Hashem blessed Abraham because he knew that he would guide and teach his children to go in the ways of Hashem. That's what Bina accomplishes. Circa online? Yes.
Yeah, I'm on Zoom. So is Sharonelle.
Is Malka here? Yeah, Malka's here. I think so. How are you, Malka? Ariel, good morning. Michal, yes. Anna, is Anna here? Not, she'll come in a bit. Okay.
I'm on Zoom.
Go on Zoom. Go, good morning, Anna, on Zoom. Tara Milligan. Okay. Sarah Mora, yes. You said brachas? Yeah. Listen, we're changing the clock this week, right?
Really?
Okay, so I expect everybody to have brachas done by the time they get here. Okay, you have an extra hour. Tova. Leah from Brazil. Sharonelle, not yet. Taylor White from Guelph. Bracha Simcha. Yes, ma'am. Bracha, remind me, where are you from? Ukraine. Do I know the name of the city? Oh, from Kiev. Wow, that's a big city. Big city. Oh, here's a new name. Sarah Zeitkin. Is she here? Sarah Zeitkin.
Another one?
Not here. Chaya Manasseh. Menashe. Yes, it's Chaya. Menashe, yeah? They left off the H. Menashe. Okay. Who is this? Who are you? Bauman? Backman? Are you from Crown Heights? Are you joining the class or just sitting in one time? We'll see. Yeah? Are you doing any other schooling? The same time? Taking courses at the university, the college, Brooklyn College? What? You're learning? I can't hear you.
I was learning in classes over here.
You're learning in classes here. This is your learning center. Okay, good. I'm glad to have you. Do you have a text? Tanya, come and get. There you go. Welcome. All right. Any questions before we get to the end of the class? There's no time to answer them. Yes.
Are you related to the Rabbi Pape in Arkansas?
I'm Rabbi Pape's father.
No way. Wow. Nice.
I used to be Rabbi Pape. I became Rabbi Pape's father. Children walk along the street and their mothers say, "Oh, look, there's Rabbi Pape." And I look around and they mean my son.
That's so funny. My children's son went to yeshiva there last year. And so all I ever hear about is Rabbi Pape. And then literally yesterday, I was like, wait, I have Rabbi Pape. So, the OG.
Yeah, well,
He
that-
loved the program. He went to
That
Mississippi.
that little boy that I mentioned in the story, that was Rabbi Pape from Arkansas.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. You're like the OG Rabbi Pape.
he was 2 years old at the time, and they went out and they have car sales in these towns out of New York, and garage sales, and they bought a little tricycle for Rabbi Pape. He loved that tricycle very much.
Rabbi Pape, I have
B'li ayin hara, a lot of people tell me over the Kiddush, B'li ayin hara, B'li ayin hara, B'li ayin hara, that their children have gone to Rabbi Pape in Arkansas, and they're so happy
we love
that
it.
he's learning there. My son, he's always been very interested in education. He went out on shlichus, and he's done a lot of different things. He did a newspaper, and he's a chaplain, and he teaches at the university, and he goes to the Air Force, and anyway, he as happens very often in shlichus, his children were growing up and they needed a better education, needed more education. He was teaching in the school that they have there. He and his wife both were teaching, but the children needed more, and children have to go away from home, and children are too young to be sent away from home. It's very, very hard to send away a 9-year-old kid, 10-year-old child, send him away to the big city, especially if you don't have grandparents there to take care of the child. So they made a yeshiva for 8 kids, and they stayed in their house. They built a room for them where they could stay in the house, but they learned with this like in a yeshiva, like in a masifta, so that they were prepared. He called it a pre-masifta, like you have pre-1A, so this is like pre-junior high.
That's where he went.
And he did all kinds of he does a lot of interesting things, and he did interesting things with them. They went caving, and he makes wine, and it was an eye-opener. The boys loved it. They had a great time. And he said, I think that this is the future of education, that to have small units of home schooling, not a home units, so the child feels a home atmosphere, but he's getting a yeshiva education. Then when he does come, like after his bar mitzvah, after grade 8, he's ready. He's ready to dorm and to be away from home, and he's very, very often cases ahead of the kids who are in classes of 25, 26 kids. Gradually word got out, and more kids wanted to come, so the numbers grew to be 8 and 9 and 10, and he couldn't handle that anymore, so he had to bring down a couple that they should be Rosh Hashiva. They should be the main teachers. He would continue teaching and they would teach it. And now it's like getting up to be more, and have to buy a building for a dorm. And so it grows. But he feels that many shluchim have to do this. And then it becomes an asset to the community. Then you have a minyan every day, because you've got bar mitzvah boys who can make the minyan. So then somebody came down, it's a small town, Little Rock, Arkansas. It's a small town, but somebody came down, a relative of the head shliach, and like he made himself a personal campaign that every week he's going to meet another Jewish person. So enough Jews, several hundreds of Jews every week can meet somebody else. And so a community builds up. But he thinks that's the future of Jewish education. And people seem to appreciate it. Somebody came over to me yesterday, he said, when my children go away to yeshiva, my wife cries. Every time we send somebody away from home, my wife cries. When we send to Rabbi Pape, she doesn't cry. Not nice?
I really only heard good things. He loved it. And he lived in your son's house.
You what?
He lived in your son's house, like in the
Yeah.
extra room. You know?
In the basement.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice. It's nicer than a lot of basements. Nicer than my basement. Okay. So we're up to page 54. There's a note here. We got to the point where we learned two mashalim, and we learned what's a mashal. A mashal is a parable. A parable is a story or a comparison that will help us to understand an idea that's much deeper. And we discussed the idea that sometimes you need a parable to explain the parable, because the parable itself is hard to understand. A lot of my morim work that way. They start off with a medrash. The Rebbe brings a medrash. Then what's the medrash? The medrash is itself a story. And then the mimer goes on to say, in order to understand this, first of all, we have to understand something else. And then it begins a whole Hasidic explanation. And from that, we can come back. And on the way, we may have a few more stories to explain along the way. So we have two mashalim. What the mashal is about is called the nimshal. The nimshal is the bigger idea. And the mashal is bringing it down to a lower level that we could get an idea of what it's all about. But the nimshal is really much bigger than the mashal. So we have two mashalim, and the mashalim are about this idea. Which idea? Listen carefully. Which idea? That the neshama of a Jewish person is part of God. Mamish. That is to say, in the physical world, in a physical body, with an animal soul, here to do a mission for Hashem in this physical world. This is extraordinary. And if you think about that, just think about that. You don't have to think about anything else. It'll change your life. It will change the way you relate to everybody you meet. I remember during the Yom Kippur War, 1973, I was brand new. I just set foot in Lubavitch, and the war was raging in Israel. It was a bloody war. It was a really painful, because the Israeli government at that time did not want to listen to the Rebbe. And they had set up a defense against invasion. And the Rebbe said, it's militarily unsound. It's not going to work. And not only that, the Rebbe was warning them and saying they're bringing out that the Arabs, the Egyptians are bringing up anti-aircraft missiles to the Suez Canal. If you know your Middle East geography, the Suez Canal is between Israel and Egypt. So they're bringing them up to the east. And Israel has a very powerful air force. And the government, Golda Meir, said, we're watching them. We have radar, we're watching them. The Rebbe said, you're not watching them. They're smuggling them up like farmers under hay in the wagons. And when the war broke out, cowards that they are, they started the war on Yom Kippur. When everybody was in shul. And sure enough, they just burst right through the Israeli quasi defenses. And they sent the airplanes, they were knocking the airplanes out of the sky with these anti-aircraft missiles. So Israel was really at a disadvantage. And a disadvantage means human lives. There was a lot of young people were killed because of that. And the big miracle is that they turned the tide. You know, like you see a fight and the one fighter is down and he's groggy and he gets up and he manages to fight back. So that was the Yom Kippur War. How'd I get there? Oh, yeah. So Rabbi Ben Zion Shem Tov, I was in England, and Rabbi Shem Tov came back. He was in Israel, and he said, when you learn Hasidus, you don't just see the war going on. You see neshamas. You see neshamas. These boys, religious, not religious, it doesn't matter. They're neshamas, the holy, holy neshamas fighting for God. So that's it. That's the idea that every Jewish person has a neshama, which is a part of God. And to understand that idea, he gave two mashalim. A mashal is a parable. What were the mashalim? Number one mashal was, who remembers? What are we talking about? The neshama is part of God. How do you know? What? Hashem blows, as it says in the Torah. Hashem blew a neshama, in a living soul, into man. And just like you blow, it says in the Zohar, who wrote the Zohar? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, 2,000 years ago. It says in the Zohar, when a person blows, he blows from deep, deep within, inside. When we mention these names, it's not just that this is a reference. It means the Alter Rebbe is taking us into the classroom with this great mystic, one of the greatest mystics and teachers of all time, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And he's explaining to us the depth of this idea. That it says Hashem blew a neshama, a living soul, into man. And Rabbi Shimon says, when you blow from deep within, because the neshama comes from the deepest depths of godliness. That's the first mashal. The second mashal we were in the middle of discussing is, who remembers? Yes, Milligan.
I don't remember, but can you tell again what the word marshal means?
Word mashal is an example, a parable,
Thank you.
a metaphor, a comparison, something that helps you understand an abstract that's a little too high to grasp, or it's abstract. An analogy, exactly. That's a mashal. And the idea behind the mashal is called the nimshal. The nimshal is the thing being compared. The mashal is the comparison. The nimshal is the thing being compared. So what's the mashal? First mashal is when you blow. The second mashal is having a baby, having a child, giving birth to new life. So that life starts from the highest reaches of the intellect, and even higher than that, higher before the soul expresses itself as intellect. You see, sit quietly. Everybody sit quietly for 20 seconds. Everybody, take a deep breath and sit quietly. You can take a second breath. It's good sometimes to retreat from the chatter. Before you have any thoughts, there's just you. In order to think, the intellectual power has to come into the intellect. So before the power of intellect in Hashem comes into intellect in Hashem, there's just the essence of the life. And similarly, since we are created in the image of God, that applies to everybody. So when a child is born, the life of the father comes down into that highest level of intellect, within the potential for intellect, and that leads to because of great love between the father and the mother, that leads to the creation of the child. And this is a mashal, this is a parable to explain how the soul of a Jewish person that comes into him is connected to the highest level of intellect of the Father. And that's a mashal, because we're not talking just about fathers and children, we're talking about Hashem. And the intellect of Hashem is one thing with Hashem. So that the Jewish neshama is connected with the highest level of intellect of Hashem, the same way that a child is connected to the highest level of intellect of the Father. Now comes the new idea that this connection is not just at the point of conceiving of the child, when the child is conceived, before the child is even a fetus in the mother's womb. Just the child, conception has taken place. Okay? And so at that point, the child that's going to come out of this union between father and mother is connected to the intellect of the Father, and remains connected to the intellect of the Father throughout 9 months of pregnancy as the child develops. The child's constantly connected with the inspirational life force that the Father gives to the mother, right? This is like grade 8, grade 9 health. That's what we learned. That's what they taught us when we got to that age. Now the Alter Rebbe says, guess what? After the child is born, the connection is not interrupted. You are still connected to that thought, to that in life that comes from the highest level of intellect of the Father, is still connected to the child even after the child is born and throughout the child's life. And that child will in turn get married and have children who will be connected to him, and through him to his father, and through him to his father, and through him to his father, until we go all the way back to Avraham Avinu. Who discovered God, who taught the world that there's one invisible God, who's the source of all life. And we're all connected to that. And that helps us to understand what it says, that the neshama Elokis is a part of God, mamish, the same way your thought is part of you. And Hashem's thought and Hashem are one thing. Like Maimonides writes, he is the knowledge, he is the knower, he is the known. So the neshama is part of God, but not just part of God up in the heavens, mamosh, down here. This is the new concept, that the neshama is actually here in this physical world, and that is mind-boggling. As an extraordinary idea. So next time you meet somebody, and you say, hello, how are you? You're talking from your neshama to their neshama. The two neshamas are meeting. You know, you have a drop of water, you have a drop of oil. You put them together, what happens? What?
They separate.
They remain separate. The oil does not mix with the water. If you have oil in a glass and water, the oil rises to the top, on top of the water. But if you have one drop of water and a second drop of water and they touch, you only have one drop of water now. The two drops completely become one. So when you meet another Jewish person and you give some lady a candlestick on Friday afternoon, it's one drop of water touching another drop of water. One Jewish soul is touching another. Thank you very much. Sterny, welcome to the class. We'll see you tomorrow, 8:30, please God. We can't gets easier. Next week, we sleep an hour. At least for a few days.
Thank you. There was another class.